Hello, soul friends and family. Welcome back to Inspired Sovereignty Radio.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. It is a wonderful day here, and we are very, very happy to be back here, finally recording. You're going to see that our setup is a little bit different if you are watching us on YouTube, and if we are just in your ear holes too. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. So it's, what is it today? July 5th.
Yeah.
July 5th. Okay,
Yeah.
so we're into July 5th. We're into a new episode where we're going through a lot of changes right now, both of us, and surely you guys as well. And so we just want to welcome everybody back to the show.
Yeah, welcome back.
Yeah.
It's good to be here again.
Right? It is very, very good to be here.
Yep.
Yeah. So, guys, so if anybody's new here, because we know that we're getting, we got new community joining us. You know, now that Kimberly and I have joined forces, you guys know that this used to be, what was the name of the podcast? Sovereign Soul Radio. We both, because Kimberly listened to the podcast for so long and I was making the podcast for so long, we get a little bit confused between the name of it now. But we are currently Inspired Sovereignty Radio, and we were previously Sovereign Soul Radio. And this is a podcast about all things, really. All things awakening and healing and holistic living and red pilling and what else did we talk about?
Self-care, detox.
Yeah, cleansing.
Current events,
guys.
Crazy stuff happening.
Yeah, so we try to have, a really well-rounded conversations here for people at all stages of awakening. We know that a lot of people listening to and watching this podcast, that you guys have been, here with us and waking up for a long time. And then now with Kimberly on board and both of us doing this together, I know that we're inviting like a whole bunch of different community in as well. And that we're all, at different stages of awakening and trying to comprehend what the heck is happening in this world. And it's a pretty darn confusing thing, hey?
Yes. Just when you think you have a grasp on something, you're like, but...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a constant process.
Yeah. And so we feel that today's conversation is probably best going to serve everybody for us to kind of have, like, what would we call it? A pep talk for these days, talking a bit about how we're navigating it, or what we're kind of comprehending,
Right,
because again, these are such confusing times for all of us, regardless of our stage of awakening, right? So we really want to talk about what we think is going on, how we're comprehending, how we're navigating, maybe what we can do during these times, right? Yeah. And have kind of, a bit of a heart-to-heart at the same time, because, we don't know if everybody has people that they can really talk these things through with, I know a lot of people don't, and when you're only seeing what mainstream media wants your brain to see, then, we can have a very skewed, very inaccurate perception of what's going on right now.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And then if we're perceiving this super inaccurately, and if we're buying into any, there's so much fear going on, like fear being manufactured and pushed upon us, that it makes our perception hazy and foggy. And so that we don't really think clearly, right?
Yeah.
So to have friends to just talk this stuff through, not that we know what's happening, but at least where we can just share different perspectives, share different points of view, right?
Yeah.
So we want to have that conversation with you in case you don't have people to have that with, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so guys, good conversation coming in today, and we hope that you guys enjoyed the last episode too, the one on self-care. We know that was a long episode, and also we were having some audio troubles, so sorry if there was any audio issues when you guys were listening to it, but we've got this great new setup here, and that was a really fun episode for us to record. I think we recorded that late at night, or it ended up being late at night, right? Yeah, right. That was such a long
We just couldn't stop talking.
No, but there's so many great ways to help take care of ourselves during these times. Like even if we're not affording or we're not choosing to go to like massage therapists or different things right now, there's still so much that we can do for ourselves in the privacy and comfort of our own homes and for close to free. So if you haven't checked out that episode, definitely check it out. It's a long listen, but it's a very, very good listen, especially if you're, I think, new to holistic living, or if you're new to helping heal your own body or taking good care of your nervous system. There's so many gems in there because we go through all of our basic tools that we utilize.
And there's still so much more that we could have talked about.
Oh my goodness, guys.
Could have been 5 hours.
Oh, yeah. So we're probably going to have a part 2 to that one day, but there's such goodness in that. Yeah.
For sure.
For sure. So, yeah, guys, we've got good talk today coming up. But a little bit of housekeeping. I don't think we have too much housekeeping. But, Kimberly is officially, what are you officially, Kimberly? Incredible. But what else?
I'll take that. Yeah, it's kind of like, am I officially unemployed or no? I am self-employed.
Yes. You're officially a business owner.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're officially okay, guys. So today's Monday. Friday was her last day at her corporate career. So if we can just shed a whole bunch of light and love on you right now, because that's a huge, huge, beautiful decision that you made to really honor soul.
Right.
And here you are. It's Monday afternoon of day one of, hey, new chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It still feels really surreal.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I'm going to have to go back next week, but
Oh, like
I don't.
No, you're on a permanent holiday, girl.
I know.
Right?
Everything just is going to be completely and utterly different now. 31 years
Yeah.
of the same thing.
And so what does it feel like leaning into that now? I mean, I know it's surreal, but do you feel right about what you've chosen? Do you feel good and confident? Or,
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel excited and creative and grateful. Just grateful for myself, grateful to myself
Yeah.
for like choosing it
Yeah.
and going through with it.
Yeah.
Because I've threatened to leave for a long time.
Well, and I just realized that I've never asked you before of like, how long were you thinking of leaving for? Or knowing like internally that it's like, oh, something's pulling me in a different direction. How long have you been in that space?
Well, for about 5 years.
What?
But it was all different.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do that. I'm ready to step away. And then it became, I am required to do this now. Like, I know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I gave a very long notice.
Yeah. What, it's like 6 weeks, 8 weeks?
6 weeks.
That was, I mean, that's very respectful of you.
Yeah. And, yeah. And then that was it. So, you know, it is what it is. It is whatever I imagine it to be.
Any words of wisdom for people that are feeling that pull and maybe not stepping into it yet, or not giving it maybe the, what would you say, the time and imagination that it deserves?
Yeah.
Or,
It's like, if not now, when?
yeah.
And how long are you going to stay not choosing yourself and not choosing where soul's taking you or where your heart's taking you?
Mm-hmm.
How long is it going to take? You know, what's it going to take? Just, to me, it was just like, finally, just break it. Just go, you know? So it's, if not now, when? And why? Why wait?
Yeah. Because when you can be on the timeline that you're supposed to be on, everything else changes. It's not like just that one part of your life changes, right? Like it probably cascading series of shifts and everything else,
Oh,
right?
sure, yeah.
Yeah.
A whole new way of doing it. A whole new way of doing everything, really.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I have time to do this now, and I have time to do that now.
Right? You're like, I'm a shampoo the dog. I'm a, right? It's time to deep clean certain things
Right.
and everything, right? Like suddenly there's spaciousness for the other stuff.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. So for anybody that needs encouragement to make whatever shift that is for yourself, if your heart knows it, if your soul knows it, what's the wait for? Right? Yeah.
Yep.
Good. Okay. So me and Kimberly, we're going at all of this full time. So we should be doing two episodes a week. We might have solo episodes. We might not have solo episodes. We might do everything. That's tag teaming all the information that needs to come through. We're figuring out, or we're letting all of that flow to see what is to become. What else? Okay. So housekeeping otherwise, guys. So if you're listening to this in like the Apple Podcast app, it is very helpful. Like if this is a podcast that is helpful for you in any way, if you can go to like the main page, give it like a star rating, that helps us so much. But also if you can write like a little write-up of whatever's true on your heart, that's also very, very helpful for this podcast reaching more people. You don't have to do it. But if you want to do it, it really, really helps us. Thank you. And then also, if you are watching us on YouTube, on the Inspired Sovereignty YouTube channel, you can now actually like be here with us not in person, but as close as we can get to in person at a distance these days. So we're also on there. And if you are watching us on YouTube, please give this a thumbs up and even consider subscribing to the YouTube channel, because again, that will help us reach more people. And it's not about us reaching more people. It's about the frequency that we're here to share, and the information and the insights that we're here to share, that these things that flow through us are meant to go to other people. You know, it's the circle of life. This is how all of it is meant to be, right? So we just want these messages and these conscious conversations to get into the ears and hearts of those people that need it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and it's already going out.
You're right. You're right, guys.
We've already expanded out a little bit.
So. Oh yeah. And so for everybody that has been sharing this, like if any of these conversations are like really helpful or impactful for you, even like share it to your friends or family or whoever could also utilize it, you know, because we are at war right now. We're in a war over consciousness and a war over information. And that means that we must all share this consciousness and keep expanding our consciousness and, you know, learning how to perceive accurately and learning how to expand, right? And up level on all levels. Yeah, good. Okay, so I guess that's everything that we've got for housekeeping. We'll probably, I mean, we're gonna have more updates as we go along, because, you know, this is our first week of being like, okay, really, we're quite full time doing this together. So we're still navigating how we're going to do Discord and or possibly Patreon, and we're working website and stuff. So over the next weeks, we're gonna have a lot more to offer you guys. So more housekeeping within these episodes, but that is enough for today. So where we wanna go for today's conversation, you know, we wanted to have a pep talk for these days and just helping to comprehend what might be going on. But we really need to start that with a good, what should be obvious, but isn't always obvious, disclaimer. So you guys know that it's like we're trained in a lot of stuff. We're woo-woo, we're also science. We're very health-oriented, we're holistically minded, you know, we're soulful women. We're wisdom carriers and water carriers and all of this. But at the end of the day, you know, we're just two human beings. We're both eternal souls, just like you, in these human bodies. We do not know what is actually happening. You know, we recognize that we probably know, what might the statistics be? 1/1000th of what's going on? Is that likely?
Of a billionth is what I've heard somebody say.
Okay, 1/100000th of a billionth. So, you know, understanding that we really do not know what is actually happening. We both have, you know, our eyes as open as they can be and our ears as open as they can be. And we are, you know, digesting information and data kind of very, very constantly. So we're doing our best to learn and to discern. But, you know, again, at the end of the day, we don't actually know anything. So we want to share from our perspectives of what we're seeing and what we're learning and everything. And as always, it's like whatever is helpful for you out of this, take it and use it. Whatever doesn't fit right now, discard it for right now. And we hope that whatever we share, and some of it is triggering, right? Because we've all been programmed. We have all been heavily programmed. And again, like unless you live in a little secluded tribe out like what in Africa or in the Amazon or something, like unless you've had a life where you do not have any media or any electronics, you too have very likely been very, very programmed. So we understand that some of the things that we talk about might be triggering for people, but when we are triggered, it's important not to shoot the messenger, but instead just to like go underneath that a bit and find out like why that's triggering me, right?
Exactly. It's triggering you for a reason.
And normally like that trigger, when you have somebody like look at it, is it for you like looking at the beliefs and belief systems around things?
It's like just a tightly held belief or feeling even that. And sometimes it's just not wanting to go there because I don't want to feel that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And also probably cognitive dissonance, right?
Absolutely. Because
you know, if we've really listened to mainstream media a whole bunch, then we probably have some certain very strong emotions and thoughts around certain people and certain things, right? Like Mr. T, for example, that we have these really, really strong opinions. And then when we are given different information that might be way more accurate, you can feel a lot of cognitive dissonance, you know, especially if you're at that place of just waking up.
And so that feels like resistance.
Right?
Like a lot of resistance. Yeah.
Like that can even feel like physical resistance. That can feel like anger in the mind.
Anger for sure.
That can feel like attacking the person that's telling you about it, or really anything, right? Yeah. So so to recognize that like what we're sharing, if it fits, it fits. If it doesn't fit, just make note of it. Like, still, I mean, it's all good food for thought. You know, I like exploring all of the things that I can, you know, and even if things are just theories at a certain point where we don't know what is right, I think it's still really important to look at all of it, because it's going to help us get a better idea of what might maybe actually is, right?
Well, yeah, well, when you have more perspectives on things, then you can make a better decision for yourself too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and when we can see things at different vantage points, right,
Exactly.
from other people's possible opinions or perspectives, it hopefully will help us have a much more well-rounded situation or perspective of what's going on. So yeah, so knowing that, like, we don't know anything, here's our disclaimer. Let this disclaimer sit across everything that we do, you know, like, unless we're talking about like poop or, you know, all of the things that are very definite. But for this stuff, you know, we're doing our best to share. Because even like when we sit down to plan this podcast out together, you know, we almost feel like there's just such a wealth of information. There's so much happening so fast. It's impossible to keep up with it. And then even of the news and everything, of what is actually real, what might be being staged, what we're just being told, what we're not being told. Like, it was almost like impossible to even think about what to even say here. You know, it's like we get all ready to do this podcast, and then we sit down, and then we're like, oh my God, there's just so much to share, you know, and what is of the highest service to share. And we want to share the most accurate, you know, information and everything. But it's challenging because, yeah, there's just so much so fast these days that in my brain, I feel like it's a mudslide in my brain, you know, where
Same.
it's like, right, because it's like we're digesting so much data constantly, and then to pull out the little pieces of data is one thing, but then to even, you know, have this conversation today of how do we really accurately perceive what's happening. It's like there's like a billion different angles to talk about, and and they're all really, really important. So today we're just going to talk about what organically wants to come through, right? Yeah. So much happening right now. And, you know, for so long, if you follow the information of number 17, and we know that some people that listen do, some people don't, whatever, but regardless, we've for the last 4 years have been told that, you know, this information and what's really happening, it'll start coming out like a trickle. It'll just trickle through. And, you know, I've been really present to this on a daily basis for 4 years, or over 4 years now. And so I watch the trickle and the trickle and the trickle of information, and days go by, and then it's like, ooh, another little thing happened. Ooh, that's interesting, you know? And it's like, it was really, really slow moving, where sometimes like a whole week would go by, and it's like nothing really noteworthy seemed to happen.
And what was that like for you to get a bit and then have to wait or not know?
Oh my God, I love that you asked. You know, because most people are just waking up over the last year or two,
Right.
so they don't really know the journey of us that have been watching longer.
Right.
Okay, so we're not going to talk a lot about the 17 stuff, because we're not, but I started following that kind of like right when it started happening. And so 17 would make their drops, you know, their information drops, and I was paying attention to it, and it's like sometimes a bunch would happen in a day, and then not for days, or sometimes not for weeks, and that was always really interesting. And then you're watching the news really, really closely in alignment with these drops, and like, you know, it just seems like it's a lot of radio silence, and then suddenly, like Seth Rich was murdered. You know, and that was like back in 2016, and it's like, oh, that was a really big thing that suddenly happened. Or like time goes by, and then or like just something weird happens in the White House, or, you know, we learn quickly about the uranium-1 situation with Ukraine and stuff. So it's like, or something crazy happens with Hillary Clinton, you know, but waiting for these things was always really, really weird, because it's like, how would I even explain that? It was just a lot of waiting and talking that, you know, one day the storm is going to come. One day this crazy shit is going to happen. And guys, we have to talk about this in the way that censorship won't flag us. So please, like, read between the lines with us. We will do our best to like keep our code dumbed down, you know, but we have to talk in code a bit. So yeah, it was just really bizarre to start watching all of these things, and then to be watching Mr. T's rallies, and then to see that he starts he starts doing things that are, or like saying things, or like there's these little symbols that are in alignment with what number 17 is posting. So to be aware of this stuff a couple years ago, it was really bizarre. It was really intriguing. There was nobody else talking about it. Kind of felt like didn't really feel like a crazy person, but it felt like I had like this other life. Like at nighttime, I didn't feel like a superhero. That's making me sound way not ordinary. No, but it was extremely interesting to just, I feel like I'm not even explaining this well, but it was you had to be very, very patient, and then to keep being told that, okay, something like where we're working towards something, we're working towards a global event, that we are on a disclosure timeline that cannot be stopped, that literally nothing can stop what is coming. And for years already, like watching the posts from 17, it's like I'm learning about the royal family. I'm learning about how mainstream media with projects with the CIA and everything, I'm learning how they have manufactured this whole system that we're in, for us to be complacent, for us to be controlled. We knew that the jab would be coming, it's like we saw all of these things coming, and I just kept watching, and and I'm like, oh fuck, okay, there's our first F-bomb today, guys. We're like, oh fuck, I'm in America, and thinking that this is going to be mostly like an America thing that happened, but now obviously, guys, this is very much everywhere.
It's everywhere.
But it was just very bizarre to watch this thing unfold long before 2020. So yeah, it was really bizarre is my best word for it, but it was also extremely interesting. Like it was like nothing else really mattered to me. I mean, this stuff mattered, but when I started learning about this and that this is going to be coming up in years, it's like, it kind of shifts your priorities of like not really much matters. Like right now, how much does a social life matter?
Right.
Not really. How much does like doing certain things matter? Like not really, now that we know like big thing at play. So how a lot of us right now are like, this matters more than anything. Us comprehending these times, us actually becoming sovereign, us helping dismantle this darkness that has been in everything. Like, it's all hands on deck, but already like learning about it for a few years. And so my priorities were already like just that. So like my social life kind of fell apart. I would just, do what I need to do for colonics to keep my business afloat, to keep myself going. But knowing that the whole system is going to collapse, it's like, why am I going to put super amounts of energy into anything? I would rather prepare for this collapse and then hopefully hold space for humanity through the collapse, Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
But it was weird. But it's really cool now that there's so many people awake. But it almost felt like before, like it was like my little secret. It was like my little hobby, my little interest, And now it's like shared with everybody. So the only child in me was like, oh, I thought just I got to think about it, But that's such a distorted way to perceive things.
And all the 17 stuff was very politically driven too. There wasn't like some of the new stuff that's coming out that we're going to talk about later.
What do you mean?
Like it was like, to my knowledge, it was all like political kind of drops, right? About not about intergalactic or anything like that.
And no, the weird thing about the 17 drops is that there was always like a benevolence to it, like straight through the whole thing. Like I just had this feeling of like there's light working in this, and even the way that stuff is predicted and how, and it's so hard to explain if somebody isn't really well versed in it. But the way that there's all of these proofs within it, the way that 17 writes and stuff, like all of the connections are mathematically impossible. Like there's clearly like that they're using the looking glass technology. Okay, we're going in deep now. I think that there's actually time travel involved in this. I think that there is actually like intergalactic light beings, Pleiadians, things like that, and now like knowing who some of our audience is like I don't want to stifle myself from saying these things that my heart and soul know are true, even though I'm a person that I really lean into the analytical, I don't lean into the woo-woo publicly. But yeah, it wasn't super political, because the 17 drops taught us a lot about like the history of the royal families. Okay. They talk more about there being other energies and other entities. And yeah, so it was more than just political, but it was still very political. But I digress. It was a very odd, it's been an odd, bizarre experience, but I'm sure that it is for everybody waking up too. Like, how was that for you waking up to being like, oh, there's this thing that made all these posts, like these 5,000 posts over these last years, and it's explaining exactly what's happening right now. And it's always a unifying message. It's always a message of us learning how to think and us being unified, you know?
Yeah, because I've seen a lot, but I haven't seen it all.
Yeah.
You know, and it would take a long time to get through it all, but I've seen a lot. And I find it really interesting how there's a lot of numbers, and the numbers link to numbers, and they show up in different places. That to me is fascinating, because I've always said, you know, there's no absolutes. There's no absolutes unless it's math.
Right.
Or geometry, sacred geometry, but math is an absolute.
Yeah.
But numbers are an absolute.
Yeah. That's such, I didn't even think about that part, right? So then to you, does that give it credibility? Because like, I don't know, can darkness be that cunning? Can darkness be that mathematical? I mean, probably. God, if they can make CERN, you know CERN.
I don't even know.
CERN?
No.
Okay, guys, so CERN, C-E-R-N. Okay, so just really quick, that's the particle collider. I can't remember where they've built it, but it's like deep underground, and it's like huge, miles wide or whatever, but it's this big track, and they put particles into it, and they get these particles running so fast, and they smash the particles together, and they basically try to create like the Big Bang by smashing particles together. But like CERN, this place, they have like outside of there, they have a Shiva. You know, Shiva is the destroyer of worlds, right? And so the Shiva is their mascot, or Shiva. And so like what they have there at CERN, that could literally implode the whole Earth, like that. Like they actually have that technology and everything there. Like you know what I mean? So like darkness is doing crazy things on this planet. So I guess they know their math really well, don't they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I always think of darkness too as just kind of like looking at us humans going, oh, this is really easy.
You think so?
Yeah. In some cases, this
I
is
guess
really
so.
easy because it's worked for so long, you know, and we've just been kind of herded towards this and herded towards that. So in a way, you know, there's things that have happened where I'm just imagining them going, we got you again.
I guess you're probably really right with that, right? I just always assume that darkness is just a little slower, a little dumber, because like you see it play out even in politics right now, you know, and it's like they're sloppy, they're in panic, they're making mistakes. Like I always see them like whereas like to me the light just has, and also like light has heart, whereas darkness doesn't have heart. So there's that piece of it, you know, but
Yeah, but even in their sloppiness, people are like, it doesn't even register.
right.
It just doesn't even register.
Huh.
So they can be,
Yeah.
in some ways, they can be.
Yeah. Hence, these days are really hard to navigate, right? Because really, like, a lot of these days is us learning how to discern between light and dark and then picking what side we want to be on, you know? I think that we're being forced to do that through whatever we're choosing to inject into our bodies or not. Mm-hmm. What are we choosing to, what's in our, you know, what are we drinking in our beverages going into our body? What are we feeding ourselves? How are we purifying ourselves? Because whatever we're in consent to, we become consubstantial with. That's one of my favorite words. You know what that word means? Consubstantial. I learned it from energetic synthesis, of course. But consubstantial or consubstantiality, I believe. I should pull up a definition here. But it's like that you become one with it. Mm-hmm. You know? So if I go eat a whole bunch of McDonald's, I've become consubstantial with that. Like I am becoming that. It is part of me. Yep. So whatever we're consenting to, it's like we're really allowing that to join energetically be. I'm not explaining that well.
Well, and consent is like, I mean, we consent to things without even knowing we're consenting to them, like over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Like what? Like what do you mean?
Oh my gosh. Like in my head, I can like see things, but when we vote, we're giving our consent to whatever that person is doing, basically. Mm-hmm. We consent medically without knowing what we're putting in our bodies. Yeah. We make the purchase. That is our consent.
Mm-hmm.
I could probably say other things, but they're slipping my brain.
Oh yeah, but truly, like everything that we choose, we're consenting to.
Yeah,
And most of our consent in this world, it's what you call like manufactured consent. Like we're not actually informed of all the things.
Oh my gosh, we consent to giving our information over to a social media.
Yeah.
So we're giving all of our information. We're consenting to them looking through our camera
Exactly.
in our phone. We're consenting without knowing we're consenting because we're having fun doing this test to find out what Disney character we are.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Oh,
We
I'm gonna
consent
go
to
pick
Disney.
out. Yeah.
By buying Disney tickets.
Exactly. Right? Or by, exactly. Exactly. So we like really everything that's here that is so horrible, it just in some way we've consented, And I think like a lot of stuff has been hidden from us. Like for instance, that Planned Parenthood, is that what it's called?
It is.
That's what it's called, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know that how many black babies that they kill, and that Planned Parenthood was actually created to reduce the black population. You know what I mean? Like that's a huge thing, but it's like, but we don't commonly know that, and that's just one example. But I think in a lot of ways that information has been kept from us, so our consent is manufactured. Where was I going with that? Oh crap, it left me.
Well, it's also in our languaging.
Yes.
So we're consenting to things because of the language of the way it's presented, or even our lack of knowledge about language.
Absolutely. Yeah, and so my thought came back, then it almost left again. But when we're consenting to something, and when we don't even know about things, when we're not demanding that we have informed consent. That we're just like, okay to not know. Like we've all been, like my generation, your generation, my parents' generation, right? Like, well, we understand that they don't tell us a lot of stuff, and it's okay. This is just the way that it is.
Right. It's always been this way.
But, really, what if we were all sovereign and we demanded information? We demand informed consent on all things, and not the tricky fine print that's wordy that they actually, right? With everything that you're learning about like conscious language and grammar, that like even just the wording of like the terms of service and everything, it's like they are tricky mothers. They are tricky motherfuckers in there.
The amount of words that they put in, because that deters people from even going there.
Exactly.
I mean, like load it up with 500 words or more so that they won't read it.
Exactly. And we're in a place where it's like, oh, well, they put some crazy stuff in the tap water, so we better not drink it if we want to be healthy. Where to me, it should be like all of us adults are like, why are you guys putting this stuff in our water?
Right. You're
not allowed to put this in our water anymore. We the people have spoken. Get that shit out. We deserve pure water, period. Like that's how the dynamic of government and everything should be. There should be small government that we control. That's the whole point of it. It's not big government to control us. Small government run by the people, for the people. That's what we're moving into, right? Where we can actually have consent about things.
And one more thing about consent. I mean, we consent so much with our money. We consent to poison in our food with our money because we purchase it. We consent to poison, in other ways, alcohol. I mean, that's poison too. It's just like, I mean, hopefully, it might trigger somebody for me to say that, but,
But we want to say just what is, even if it makes us feel ways. Because we got our own hang-ups, but we got to be honest with ourselves, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying I'm perfect in any way, shape, or form, but I'm saying I am realizing these things as I learn more and more about how life is outside of the real sovereign piece of being a human.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think what you said with money is so important because, right? I mean, a lot of us have already known this for years, but wherever we're spending our money, it's like you're voting with your money. Yep. I could go run and grab some organic produce at Walmart, or I could get my booty to the farmer's market, because there's always multiple farmers markets on different days in most towns and cities, so it's like we've got options, but what does that take? Us not being distracted. That takes us being more cognizant of what are my choices and what is the cause and effect, right? Does Walmart, like the people that run Walmart, they're some of the wealthiest people in the world, plus they traffic kids. So, and I've still been going and buying my groceries there sometimes. Why am I doing that? See, this is me calling myself out publicly of like, why am I making these choices? Because it matters. You know, even if it's like $100 of groceries for that week from Walmart, what would that do to the farmer at the market versus Walmart? You know, it's like we've got all of these little micro choices everywhere
Yes.
that form this reality. And so how can we all start being just a little bit more conscious, or heck, a lot more conscious about it, right?
And it really requires you to get a little bit out of your comfort zone. And so
And
things
have to figure things out.
yeah, so using
Yeah.
and that's why it's made so simple for us to go rock up to a Walmart and it being cheap, or to rock up to whatever and it being cheap and easy. You know, I mean, we have everything at our fingertips.
Because I could go
You
to
don't even
five.
have to go to the store.
No, you're right. But I could go to 5 local shops, you know, and I could support 5 local shops
Right.
for, let's say, groceries. I'm going to get some incense. I'm going to, you know, whatever.
Right.
Or I could just go to Walmart and grab all of it. Or I could just
right.
order it all on Amazon and it can be here in 2 days, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, it's still choice.
But that's part of the agenda, making it so simple and speedy
So
for
it's
people.
so easy.
Yeah.
It's harder to be conscious.
Yeah. It seems that way.
Yeah.
But once you get in the groove, I imagine that, you know, your body gets infiltrated with all the wonderfulness of being supportive, of being a friend to these people.
Yeah.
You know, your generosity in doing that, your generosity in time, your generosity in money to support those people is going to light you up
Yeah.
in return.
Absolutely.
And you're getting clean stuff.
Oh, exactly. But that also made me think of still like in this line of thought to still be extra discerning, because like for the last 2 years or 2.5 years, I've been using Grove products. You know, grove.co, are you familiar? Okay, so it's like a website where you can go and buy all of the stuff from skincare to makeup to healthy home stuff to everything. And their thing is that they only sell things that are good for the environment and clean ingredients and all of that. So you don't have to figure out what are the ingredients and everything. You just know that if you go to grove.co, anything that they have, it's going to be good for the earth and it's going to be good for you, you know? And then I start looking into that stuff and it's like, no, they actually carry dangerous products. But they say that their mission is like, literally, we don't do that. But that is what they do.
So
and then also,
greenwashing.
exactly, green. Yeah, okay, perfect way to say it, right? And then also with that, they're like also doing the defund the police stuff and everything, you know. So sometimes there's places that look all organic and like we're consenting appropriately, but there's still darkness that has infiltrated it sometimes, you know.
And doesn't that just kind of like really speak to what we intended to speak to and are going to get to about how it's like there's so much and you have to be so discerning and awake, and you're not always going to get it right, and sometimes you're going to make, you know, a mistake, and then you're going to learn from that. That goes with all the stuff about awakening, and that goes with all just the regular life stuff.
Yeah, and it's hard, guys. I mean, I shouldn't say it's hard, guys, but it's not what we're used to, all of us. You know, we're in a place where it's like we have to think these things through. All of these aspects or all of these little areas of our life that we were complacent in. Now it's like, okay, is that in alignment? Is that integral what I'm doing over here? Could I do it more clean, more holistically? Can I, you know, am I accidentally supporting big business and Jeff Bezos or whatever? Like, where can I, you know, I feel like we all have to start looking at that a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, I mean, generationally, it just got made easier and easier for us to be asleep to all that.
Yeah. Yeah, guys. So maybe, you know, wherever that is in your life, you know, take a look at that. I'm looking at alternatives to Amazon. You know, I'm going to start getting my butt out to the farmer's market. There's one Wednesday afternoon. You know, like, yeah, oh my God, Kimberly, you can do things with me. There's live music tonight also, you know, but yeah. So maybe wherever there is in your life, where are you capable of making shifts right now that it's not going to take too much extra time or energy or figuring things out, but there's different ways that all of us can make shifts. So what, you know, take some time to look at your own life and see where can we do a bit better as human adults, because we're choosing. Yeah. Okay, so guys, basically, so much is happening right now. So much is happening. With our discernment of what is going on, we see really clearly, I mean, we feel that we see very clearly that, you know, we're in a disclosure timeline where all of this stuff is going to be disclosed. When I say all of this stuff, we mean basically the way that certain things have been hidden from humanity for a very, very long time. And so that gets into stuff having to do with NASA and outer space. That probably has stuff to do with what actually is the Earth. What is this realm? What is this world, this planet? What shape or whatever is it? Like we don't know. We're starting to recognize that we don't actually know the things that we think that we know. Like even gravity and physics, how we perceive them on this planet. I don't think that we even accurately understand that stuff at all. But now I'm getting really woo-woo, or getting just weird. Not woo-woo, but weird. But I think that
it's true.
There's going to be surprises all around. What, like all of the different cures that have been hidden from us, technologies that have been hidden from us, the actual like abundance that was supposed to be returned back to the people 20 years ago, which is why they planned 9/11 to stop this abundance and the whole overhaul of society into a benevolent one. That should have happened to all of us 20 years ago. It was supposed to happen 20 whole years ago, and instead, they killed a whole bunch of U.S. citizens, and then we started wars in the Middle East, and we've been in wars for 20 years. So when you think of what has that done to the economy, what has that done to people's lives, what has that done to the earth and to all of her people, you know what I mean? Like when I start thinking like big picture, like even all of our, everybody knows, all the friends and family and everybody who have died from cancers and illnesses, that they should not have had that life path, and we can say like, oh, well, it was all soul's plan or whatever, but we weren't supposed to be living in a world like this for the last 20 years, and it's only gotten worse and worse, because we truly are in a place where there are globalists that are trying to take over everything, and everything that we're seeing happening right now is that unfolding. And when you asked me before about like what was this like waking up a bit earlier, and it was this idea of like the globalists are coming for us. What? That all of these things, the passports, the chips, all of these things that we'd just been like, they were just ideas that we were being talked about that I thought would come between 2030 and 2040. Like I thought that there was time, I knew that something was coming, but it felt like there was time still. So now just, all of these different things that we're seeing, we think like it seems like, oh, well, America has a new presidency, and also this other thing with this virus is happening, and that these are like separate things that are happening, not recognizing that it's actually all one really, really quite intelligent plan, right? Like it's, yeah. So to recognize that all of these mandates and all of these limitations and all of these restrictions and everything, that all of that is part of a globalist plan for global takeover. And that might seem really weird to people, but I know that a lot of people that are listening like completely understand also. But to really understand, like, because like when I grew up in the 80s, there were like the Cold War was already over and stuff, and we learned about World War I and we learned about World War II, but we never really had to like, none of it was real. It was like, okay, that's the stuff that used to happen, but now everything is good, and we're all, I'm going to go to school, I'm going to have a family, I'm going to have kids, I'm going to have a career, then my kids will have kids, and then I'm going to be a grandma one day, and I just think that, well, all of these things, like my life is just going to play out like this, but like we're still at a country, or like in a world where there isn't peace yet, right? And even, even like my husband is like, well, the military shouldn't be so well funded. And it's like, buddy, the military's protecting us from a lot of things, like it's not all just bad, I guess. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that type of stuff?
I just think it started so long ago, and it's just.
You mean like decades or thousands of years?
Well,
both.
Certainly both, yes. But I mean, the banking system and big pharma, that's a good starting point to think about. And then just how manipulating everything has been to get us where we are right now. And glamorized even. Oh yeah. Well, even when you just said like the banking system and stuff, for us to understand that the Titanic, that wasn't just a sexy romantic movie. It's like the Titanic intentionally went down because of the 4 gentlemen on that were, I believe, preventing the Federal Reserve from being created. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we romanticize like this really, really dark thing happened, and then it's like, well, we're going to make a romantic, sexy movie about it to make everybody just have certain feelings, right? Yeah. And just romanticizing even the stuff like the jab. Mm-hmm. How do you see it being romanticized? Like just like, it's celebrities that are pushing it. It's Well, that in and of itself should tell you something.
But also, but like, is it a whole lifetime of Krispy Kremes? Or is it just a year? Or is it until as long as you live?
I don't know.
You
I
know?
mean, I don't know because I don't pay attention to it. But it's a thing. It's like it's so incentivized.
Yeah.
And glamorized.
That's called, guys, that's called undue coercion. You know, it's the same thing of like if there was a guy with candy in a van and he's like, hey, sweetie, you know, you want a lollipop. It's like that is the exact same coercion that they're using. But we know it's not okay when it's a man in a van. But is it okay when it's your government and a donut, or your government and a tuition, you know, or your government having a lottery, you know, to understand that right there, that situation even exists, like that shouldn't excite anybody. You should say like, what? You know?
Why do you have to coerce me into this?
Exactly. You know, and did you guys have the DARE program in school?
Yeah.
Right? Like I learned really, really well in grade 5 and grade 6 that you say no to drugs. You know, and especially if somebody's like using peer pressure, you say no. It's because if there's pressure, it's like that doesn't make sense, you know?
There's a whole thing about just say no in regards to that when that started. There's a whole documentary.
You mean with DARE or with what's going on right now?
No, with DARE.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Another time, another subject, but just how they broke apart families.
Oh, really?
By just going there rather than actually doing something about it.
Oh. And the plot thickens, you know? Everything is complicated. But yeah. So with all of this that's going on, so, you know, we do see it as it's a globalist, you know, situation that they've been planning for a long time to try to make this happen. And that, you know, hopefully humanity is rising to the occasion. But our understanding, what we think we understand, is that the good guys have indeed won. Good guys being like high level military, high level light beings, hopefully, that this has been a plan that's been put into place over the last 60. How long ago did JFK die? Basically, since JFK was assassinated. Right. That was in 1962, 69. Okay, guys, we should know that. I think it was like November 22nd or something. But, you know, since then, it's like, you know, this strategy has been in play to one day liberate basically all of Earth, because this darkness is in every pillar of society. And when we say darkness, we actually mean like a satanic agenda where they've been doing horrible things to children and sacrificing them and eating them, you know, and that's been happening for thousands of years. That's the stuff that has been happening since Bible times, and we just all thought that it like stopped. But, you know, we find out in 2020 that no, that stuff has been happening literally underneath our feet for a very long time. So, you know, when we start waking up to all of this, it's really challenging, all the feels, and to actually be able to, like, you know, if you're hearing what we're saying, it's like, sounds like Ivy and Kimberly are talking about crazy stuff. But then to actually start internalizing that of like, what if this stuff is actually true? How do I feel about that?
Right.
What's going to happen? Is my brain going to break?
Right.
Right? Is my heart going to break?
Right.
And like a little bit of both of those.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also alongside understanding that, you know, there's been a ploy to take over the world by a lot of really not good people, because power does not good things to ego, you know. Heart doesn't need power, you know, but understanding that at the same time, there's also been what is known as a transhumanist agenda. And so I don't really want to get into the part of talking about like trans people as like gender orientation, because that has a little bit to do with it, but I mean, I want to talk about like a bigger picture. It really is the merging and melding of humans with artificial intelligence. And so that happens through the nanobots and through their smart dust technology and through, I mean, just through all of the things, but namely also through the things that they put in the things that they inject us into. You know, that we're at a starting point of them melding our body with artificial intelligence. But they also market it in a way that, you know, in futuristic ways of like, well, this is the future of humans. You know, you want to learn Japanese? We're just going to download that into your head. You know, you want to know jujitsu? Like, you know, kind of like the Matrix. You know, Neo could just like
the
plug
Matrix,
that thing in, and it's like, what's it that he knows? He knows karate, or he knows jujitsu, right? Or something. So understanding that that's also where they're taking us. You know, that's why everything that we do is on our phone. We're always connected to these. We all have like
That's what I was
this.
just gonna speak to. It's
Okay,
like
speak to it.
It's already here because of the phones, because of the wearable devices. You know, it's already.
You got Alexa in your home.
It's
right?
already being okayed by us when we have those in our home and on our bodies and stuff.
It's consent.
So I'm sure that the phone was one of the beginnings of that. I mean, when you were speaking, it was just like, oh wait, they're doing that without it being attached to us yet or in our bodies yet.
Just
They've
get us
already
used
started.
to having it right here all the time,
yes,
right?
Yes.
And now it's on the wristwatch too, right? And that's why even like I've had a version, I don't have one of the Apple Watches or anything, because there's certain things like it's like I have, and even when the iPhones came out, I resisted for a couple years, you know, because I was just like, I just need a phone that can make a phone call. Like I don't want these things that do all these things, you know. So resist the stuff where you can, I guess, but this is also just the way of the world. But anyways, with this transhumanist agenda, the idea behind that is to get us all basically melded with artificial intelligence, but that's because then we're completely controllable. And also with that, they say that just out of like a speck of our own hair or a speck of skin, that they could clone a body, and you can clone a body to any age, and you can do it really, really quickly. And also that you can transfer consciousness. So, you know, if I needed a new body in the near future, they can just clone me really quick out of a skin cell, and then they already have the technology to put consciousness into the clone body. You know, and guys, it's like we're messing with God. That's not what we do. And at the same time, they've also been, what do you call it? Not reproducing things. Like I've seen videos of like, it's a baby, but it's also part pig. Or it's a baby, but it's also part frog. Like
Hybrid.
Hybrid, thank you. You know, so like they're doing some crazy things, but that's to alter our DNA, and that's really to like control the soul. Because if they can meld us with artificial intelligence, that will cut off your relationship to God. That will cut off like your bio-spiritual, like what this body actually is. Because this body is like a sacred, multidimensional tool. You know, this is such an incredible vehicle that we're in, but this transhumanist agenda is just going to render us all basically into like little human bots that are incredibly controllable, because every, like, you know, oh, like, you know, you've only got this many points this week because of your behavior or whatever, that literally everything about us can be controlled. And so that's a really dangerous place to be. But we're like, oh, Alexa in my house, that's so convenient. Oh, the whatever that locks my front door automatically, that's so convenient. Oh, this car that's so robot-y now and so computerized, that's really convenient. But we're not seeing that. That's just us giving our consent to this artificial intelligence again and again and again. And it all seems like, oh, just a little bit here. Oh, this is really cool. Oh, that's so convenient for me. Oh, this is so neat that I have this now. And then before we know it, guys, everybody's zombies.
Yeah.
Like maybe literally, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I was talking to my son about it, and I was just like, you know, we're in this matrix. So how can we use those tools to our advantage? Because we are using those tools to spread information.
And that's what light does, right? We take the darkness and we're going to use this and mess you up with it.
Exactly. And nature knows what to do. So why are we screwing with nature? Nature knows what to do. Our bodies know what to do. They're built that way.
But I think that is what has been removed from us.
Right.
Because where did I learn that? I learned that from being in nature with my grandparents, because I'd play hooky from school, you know, and I learned that from being a really sick person and then healing myself. Like, that's the only way that I actually know those lessons, because most people don't know them. How do you know them?
Right. Same. I mean, same. It was healing myself, and then just like reading and taking in information about what the body actually does. But I have had those times where I was like, I felt like my whole body was poisoned. And then what did I do to recover from that? I went so clean, so hydrated, to become natural again, you know. So.
But most people, do they have those experiences?
Right.
Or do they have a friend that's already experienced that to be like, hey, there's another way that you could look at what you're going through right now, right?
Yeah. I mean, many people just tap into the doctor, the expert.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Because we're taught that if they have a white lab coat, they probably have the answer for us, and they're more intelligent than our own bodies, you know? And that's, Yeah, so guys, just basically everything is backwards. And most everything that we've gotten used to and consented to, there's generally a hidden or not so well hidden, really dark element to it. You know, and then us as people right now, like if we're not actively choosing our own sovereignty, which means we all have to even just learn what is that and what does that even mean. Right? I remember when you and I met, you had mentioned something along the lines of like the word sovereignty. Like I didn't even really know what it means or what's important about that word, right? Most people don't.
Right.
I talked to Davey and he was like, sovereignty, doesn't that just mean like the royalty people? And it's like, no, it means so much more than that, but we don't know for a reason.
No. Yeah, exactly. It's not a word that, I mean, you hear it more now, obviously, at least I do, but I was kind of like him, where it was just like, that's a royal thing.
Yeah.
It's a robe.
That's an English
It's a
thing,
sovereign
right?
robe. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. But then you see that, right, we have intentionally not been educated on the things that actually matter. What are the things that matter? Growing food, having a healthy body, healing your body, good communication, healthy relationships. Like that's the stuff that helps us be a human well, and be a human for a long time, right?
Right. That's your anti-aging.
Yes. Yeah. So, you know, we're in a place that we all have a lot to unlearn. We all have a lot to deprogram in ourselves. We all have a lot of like re-educating ourselves to happen. And I think it's either that we're going to put in the effort and heart to be on that path of deprogramming and relearning and coming back to like what is good, what is God, what is the basics, or you know, if we're not going to put in that type of mental energy and heart energy, then we're just going to continue being complacent. And is this where we have a separation of worlds?
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah. Any other thoughts on that stuff?
No.
Okay. Well, and I mean, what else is important to talk about with all of this today? Yeah, and I know that a lot of that sounds probably like really big and really dark, but it's also all these things that we're talking about. I really think that it's a pretty accurate perception of what's going on. You know, it's hard to digest, and it's really uncomfortable to really think that, you know, oh goodness, this is the reality that we've been living in. You know, and God, you know, is this the conversation that we want to have with people on a podcast? Not really. We want to talk about things that make them feel good, you know? But then at the same time, guys, like when all of this really starts being known to all of us, this is going to be really traumatic to understand for a lot of people's hearts. So if we can just practice having these conversations so that you're getting some of these ideas from, you know, open-hearted people like us that are bringing these like little seeds, planting these seeds, but we're planting them hopefully with grace and a lot of love and compassion for you. You know, so yeah. So I think it's important that that thing that I wanted to read. I've had a lot of people, because I mean, I share these ideas with some people, of course, and often what I hear back is like, okay, well, if the good guys are really winning, and if what these ideas are actually accurate at all, then like, why is the jab still going out? You know, and why did Mr. T endorse the jab? You know, because a lot of people are like, well, that doesn't make sense. And that situation provides a lot of cognitive dissonance for people, because it's like, well, that doesn't make sense. You know, if these jabs are actually so bad, then why? You know, and so I've read a couple times this one explanation for that, and I think it's really important to share just for food for thought, if you guys are open to me sharing it, because it really helped me to look at the situation a little bit differently. And I'm going to read it to you because that's just going to be a bit more articulate than me just sharing it. And so in case this has been something that is on your mind as well, you know, you guys know that I obviously don't have the jab, but you know, I've had health problems before, and I actually have medical paperwork that says that it would be inappropriate medically to ever give my body a vaccine in general. So like, you know, I'm in a spot where for my own health, I'm definitely not open to it. But everybody, you know, we're all in our own position, and I know that some listeners have received it, which, you know, we hope that there truly has been a placebo put in, you know? And there's also a lot of things that if you are having any effects of the jab, or you're having shedding happen, like if you're a person like myself that is not jabbed, and you're concerned about spike proteins being shed by other people, there's a lot of different like remedies that they know that are helping. And we can talk about that quickly at the end. But here's what I want to share about the idea of Mr. T endorsing the jab. So number one thing to understand, and again, this is just what we're thinking and how we're perceiving it, is that Mr. T is part of a military operation with this. And again, understanding that there's been, a military has been planning for many, many decades for this point in time where we're going to take this world's sovereignty back and we're going to liberate all the people and evict and banish all these bad folks that have been doing really horrible things in all of the different ways. Okay, so guys, number one, Mr. T is part of a military operation. And number two, that the bad dudes, the cabal, that they had planned for decades for the fall of America. And President Obama did a lot to damage this during his terms, or to damage America, even like how he completely, basically debilitated the military, and underfunded them and didn't keep up on anything so that America wouldn't be able to protect itself. And then when HRC didn't win, they ended up using the virus in Mr. T's final term to squish him from being able to come back for a second term, basically. And then also, right, because when Mr. T won the election and they didn't think that he would, then suddenly those bad folks had 4 years, 3 to 4 years to plan for this. Because like my understanding was that that had she won in 2016, that we would all probably be toast right now, because they already had plans to put in place with all of this. So okay, so the virus is basically what bad dudes would need, like as a cover for them to actually get away with what happened on November 4th, 2020. Because for everybody to know, and regardless of what you think about it, there's a tremendous amount of forensic fraud, or there's a tremendous amount of fraud that has been found forensically. And that is what is about to break loose and all of us to know about soon. And that things are probably going to be moving extremely fast once that happens. So, okay, so the virus is cover for what happened during the election. And then also to help get everybody used to the new normal. The new normal of, here's my personality gone because I'm going to wear this mask all the time. Okay, I'm going to get a jab every 12 months and then every 6 months for boosters or whatever. Like getting us used to, okay, you're going to need a special passport to show that you've had these things before you want to go and do anything. Oh, you want to work and make money? We're going to make sure that you need to, to have this in your body already. Like this, what we're going through right now, it's perfect conditioning for people to comply more and more later, because if they can just get small bits of compliance, just comply a little bit, comply a little bit, now comply a lot, right? Yeah. Looks like you have thoughts.
I did, but it left.
Okay, if it comes back, you tell me. And so Mr. T says that he got the jab done, or like the jabs created at record speed, and he anticipated that the jabs would be approved. Like if he didn't speed through the jab, like the jab creation, then it would have been that, like if he didn't speed it through, then now in this next presidency, like we would have all been waiting for the jab, and therefore we have to keep everything locked down. We have to stay masked, and then when the jab is finally ready, it's going to be FDA approved. Right now it's not approved. It's technically an experiment. So it would have been FDA approved and then mandated for everybody. So therefore, completely taking away our informed consent or even our ability to deny it, right? And so, so with those options, Mr. T countered, and to get rid of the fear narrative, because he got the jab in sooner. He got it here so that people could start having it much, much sooner if they wanted it. So that helps to counter the fear narrative. It also allowed America to start reopening businesses and for us to like gain some of our rights and our sovereignty back. And then also him allowing the jab to happen, even if maybe the jab was still as dangerous as it was intended to be, is that the danger of the jab would help to expose Big Pharma and expose the CDC and expose Fauci, and it's kind of like you put them all on display. And we've been seeing like there's so many adverse reactions and so many people have lost their lives that have had the injection that, as terrible as it's simply cause and effect, but that is helping wake up people that wouldn't have been otherwise. Right?
Yeah. And what I was going to say before was like, when has a jab ever been required in order to have a job, to do these things? When has it ever? For this, for this spiky ball, I mean, come on. Yeah, it blows my mind. It's like, when has it ever been a requirement? I mean, except for school. And it's not even a requirement for school.
Mm-mm. Exactly.
But they make it sound like it's a requirement for school. I'm talking about previous jabs. I'm not talking about now jab, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, exactly. Like right there, that should wake people up, right? And also we have to understand that the jab is not actually what they say it is at all, because number one, doesn't protect you from getting it. Number two, you still carry it. It doesn't stop you from spreading it. So shouldn't that be the whole intention behind the jab? But it doesn't do either of those things that it's supposed to do. And so technically, it's not a vaccine. It's technically in all like terms of what that means, it is not one of those. What it actually is, it is a gene altering medical protocol. It's a gene, it alters your genes, and it's like it's a medical protocol that's really really not okay. Not okay.
It's a code.
Exactly. Exactly, guys. They're hacking our biology, and a lot of us are just like, okay. But for us to really think that through, so like we hope and pray that that hopefully a lot of the doses are actually saline, or that there was somehow intervention. And when we talk about Romana Didelot, I remember that there's a point in that about that too. That's really important. But sorry, guys. Anyways, back to the way that Mr. T pushed it forward so quickly so that it could not be FDA approved, that it still is technically experimental. Therefore, we get to choose whether or not we want to have it, and it cannot be pushed on us. As well with that, so because the jab is not mandatory, that is why they are heavily incentivizing it right now. That's why we're talking the Krispy Kreme donuts. That's why we're talking some people might win a lottery if you have both jabs, right? They're doing so many things that, again, it's fraud, it's coercion, it's manipulation, there's heavy deception. It's also backwards. So America was already in a very, very delicate place, and Mr. T had to weigh his options. So he could, A, tell America that the jabs were meant to depopulate the world and enslave us. And we haven't even talked about the depopulation part of that. But I mean, women's fertility and men's fertility are being heavily, heavily affected. So Mr. T could have either told us the truth about it, or he could endorse it. So just two options. And how these would have played out is that if he would have told us the truth about it, then as a sitting president, warning America that they cannot trust the FDA, the CDC, and all of the institutions that we've come to know and trust, how do your friends and family take it when you tell them these things? You know, like that would have been... And if it was coming from Mr. T, when a lot of people have, Trump derangement syndrome, when it was like, we've been told that he's so bad. But we haven't seen him be bad. We've only seen him be really darn good. So like that, how would people have reacted to him if he just spewed out all the truth about it? It's like that could really go opposite, right?
With him saying it, for sure.
Exactly, because of what the media has done to him as a character. So then the second option, right, with him endorsing it, that's about, so he allows a biological weapon with a pretty low mortality rate to be released on the American soil. This option had advantages to him. So allowing a biological weapon to be released did something crucial. For the first time in history, all 50 states were placed under a disaster declaration. And additionally, thanks to Bush Sr., America was already in a state of war since 9/11, technically, right? Again, that's when Gassara and Nassara was supposed to come in, and that would have been a completely new constitutional law system that is not based on admiralty maritime law. It would have been like truly bringing our rights and sovereignty and our abundance back to us. So if we combine the disaster declarations and us being in a state of war, and then Mr. T has certain powers when we're at war, because presidents do, and when we look at that, it's like they have a lot of powers during war. Like, for instance, that's how he was able to, I believe, put through the executive orders that would, what do you call that? Take all of the assets of people who have committed crimes against humanity or crimes against children. Like, important things have happened because of this, but not everything is quite as it appears. So COVID also provides the white hats, the good guys in military who have been planning this for a long time. This allows them perfect cover story to carry out operations as well. Because most of us, for the last year and a half have been mostly tucked away, safer at home, not traveling so much. And then also at the same time, like, we have to recognize that what we're seeing isn't all real. Like, from what we've seen on the news, we know that a lot of it is CGI. You know, and a lot of it is people in masks. And it's like, oh, well, you two are crazy to think that. And it's like, no, you can actually see like the pixelation and like things being all glitchy. And we've also seen like some footage of even the president where it's like you can see the mask coming up at his neck.
Well, there's also been somebody that gave a testimony to being in court.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
do you
not
want
being
to
able
share
to
that carefully?
Not right. That's what I'm like. Not being able to point out her perpetrator because it wasn't her perpetrator, even though it was the representing that person and looked like that person. It wasn't actually that person.
Mm-hmm. And we're actually talking about the person that's technically the president right now.
Right.
That she couldn't actually point him out and say that that's him because
she'd perjure herself.
Exactly, because it's not technically him anymore. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So basically, like with Mr. T, that in times of war, he had two shitty options. You know, disclose the truth to the public, but then how's the public going to handle that? Then what's going to happen? Because the last thing that they want is civil unrest, or for the bad guys to take really, really drastic measures on us. You know, so you know, in war, there's always going to be casualties. So it really like. When we really look at everything that's happened, it makes sense that he chose the lesser of two evils, you know, because the alternative of what has happened would have been probably billions of people dying and like actually it kind of being hell on earth, you know. So to look at it just from a place of he probably did the best that he could in that situation, and just seeing that because it played out this way, that it's not actually being mandated, that we actually do have some choices, you know, that it seems like it was strategic for him to endorse it. I hope, did I say all of that okay?
I think so, yeah.
I hope it made sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so and also for anybody watching on YouTube, like you guys can put comments down and we will address those on the next episode for sure. But yeah, like to me, it makes some sense that it's playing out as it is. And also that we're on a disclosure timeline where it's like everything just keeps looking crazier and crazier. And hopefully to be waking people up, you know, because we now know that our pipelines can be hacked, our food can be hacked, like everything can be hacked. You know, we're learning that there's dangers to the masks. There's dangers to the jabs. Like we're just slowly seeing all of this and hopefully seeing clearly.
Right.
Yeah, and hopefully it's starting to really impact all people, because you know a lot of people maybe won't wake up until something actually affects their life. Right.
As long as people can live normally and they're not seeing this stuff, then who knows?
But if they see that, you know, there's really, really high gas prices.
Right.
Or really high lumber prices.
Or there's no meat at the grocery store.
Or there's no meat at the grocery store. Or, you know, your 16-year-old guy buddy that you know that's in school has heart inflammation now from getting it. You know, I think that it's affecting all aspects of life to help wake up all the people that are asleep, hopefully.
Yeah.
So I hope that all of that makes sense. I hope it does.
Ask questions, y'all.
Yeah.
Ask questions.
Definitely. And we share a lot of stuff on our Instagram, and we share even more stuff in our Telegram. So, you know, we've got aspects or like ways that we're helping to red pill people all the time. But you got to be willing to look at information, you know, and if you're not a person that wants to be overwhelmed with information, then I think it's still just important to at least have these ideas in your mind of like, shit's probably going to keep getting crazier. We're about to learn that there was a tremendous amount of fraud. We're about to learn that the people supposedly in the White House have actually stolen that situation. And so it's like, oh, well, you don't just wait until 2024, because if the system was that broken in November and bad dudes are in control right now, like literally people that are extremely deceptive, people that have stolen this country, you know, then how would we trust that it's an okay situation for any of us to vote in the future elections, right?
Absolutely.
And really, like if I go steal diamonds and I get caught, do I get to keep the diamonds?
Right.
No, I have to give them back.
Whatsoever, right?
No. So you know, in that way, and even for people that really don't think that Mr. T would have won, it's like we even just look at his rallies and it's like he's a man of the people, you know, and we, you know, if the majority of people cast their sacred vote for this person, I think it's very important that we honor whatever is true and real, you know. Yeah, so guys, I guess this episode is just a little bit all over the place, but it's just kind of like a talk for these days, you know, where it's like we want to be in our heart. We want to understand that our informed consent is everything. And so I know I've talked about this on some videos, but just really quickly, what is informed consent? Informed consent means that, number one, you've got all of the information pertinent to you making a decision. So that means that it's like we completely understand all pieces of information, all aspects of whatever we might be choosing, and we completely understand all potential consequences that it might have on us in our lives, good, bad, or anything. We have complete information about everything needed to make an intelligent and informed decision for what is best for us. So we have all the information. We are also mentally capable of understanding and comprehending. It's like we're in the right mind. We're not mentally deficient or anything, but like we're not drugged or something. Like often when people are drugged and raped, right? It's like when a person is drugged, even if you say yes, it's still not informed consent because you're under the influence of something, So for us to truly be in our consent, in our authority, have all of the information, and then one of the most important pieces of informed consent is that you are not under any form of duress or coercion or fraud or manipulation or deceit, deception. Like there's nothing at play around you, influencing you, pushing you, anything. It's just simply like, okay, here, everything's neutral. I've got all the information. This is my choice alone, and I will make my choice when I'm ready.
Right.
That is how we're supposed to be choosing everything and anything in our lives, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, I never learned about informed consent until I was like in research psychology in university. Like had I not been on that path, where would I have even learned? Because they don't teach us about the Nuremberg trials. They don't teach us.
And I didn't know about informed consent until I listened to your podcast.
Are you serious? Are you
Totally
serious?
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody, like, I don't know which episodes, like in the 30s or so, there's a 3-part series on informed consent, and it is absolutely worth your effort and energy to listen to them. Because, like, that's just the stuff that we need to know.
Yeah, it's important stuff.
Super important, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, what else do we want to talk about today? What else is on your mind? We could talk about Romana quick. Do you have other stuff?
I think yeah.
Yeah?
Go there.
Okay.
And I think we wrap up with that.
Okay.
It's hope and love, and I like it.
Okay, good. Okay, so guys, so where we're going to go with this conversation, and yeah, we'll have like different themes for our next episodes, but and hang on, let me say one more thing before we go further, is that you guys were already supposed to have another 3 episodes from us. And Kimberly and we already recorded like a pep talk for these times, but that was probably already recorded I think it was end of May.
Mm-hmm.
And so we looked at all of our notes for that pep talk for these days, and it's like already the complete pep talk has completely changed because everything is changing so quickly. And then also I recorded, that episode that we did, the audio was so jacked on it that it's like we just couldn't use it. And then I just recorded 2 episodes last week, so you should have had those come up from me, and they were really, really, really good. But again, the audio was all screwy, so we're finally at a place where everything should work great. But sometimes things come in. Sometimes things come in and interrupt things, but maybe everything in perfect timing.
Yeah. And too, just so you guys know too, a lot of when we're doing this, it's very organic, and we have an outline and we have what we want to talk about, and then we just start talking and something completely different comes up because we had intended to talk about something.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, we're kind of touching on it, but so much more comes out of it because it just starts to flow.
Yeah. Do you like that?
I do. I do.
Okay. I mean, we'll find our way through all of this. I mean, it's like we're still getting used to holding space together, talking into things, having things in our ears. There's a lot that goes on for when you're doing this on your own. So quickly to talk about Canada supposedly has a new leader. A new leader of Canada 2.0 is what it is being called right now. And so who knows about the legitimacy of this? With everything that I can see, I think this is legitimate, but I don't know. So with that, her name is Romana Didelot. She is Canadian. What to even say? I started seeing her in social media and stuff about a month ago. She's only on Telegram. She's put out a couple of videos, but basically saying that the White Hats have put her in charge of Canada, maybe also some other nations or countries, and that Canada, which you guys know was under like the heaviest tyranny, like more so than almost anywhere, that that now she's in control of Canada, that the CCP has been completely booted out of Canada, that Canada is like the template for the free world. Canada 2.0 is the template. So basically this woman, and she talks from such a place of like strong, cut and dry authority, but also with like so much compassion and love, which is a very, very interesting dynamic for somebody in power. And it really makes me think of like future world leadership,
Right.
where it's like no bullshit, peace and prosperity, or fucking perish. You know, like I think that that's
Like,
really interesting.
utter sovereignty.
Utter sovereignty, right? And when she says peace or prosperity or perish, she expounded on that one day and actually said, it's like, no, literally peace and prosperity to all of the people. And if you are not interested in peace and prosperity for every person, you're going to have to perish, because there isn't room for anybody else other than, or like there isn't room for that energy in the future timeline, period. So I'm like, okay, girl. But so anyways, she's calling herself the Commander-in-Chief of Canada, as well as the commander of the Allied Armed Forces and the Canadian Army or the Canadian military. And she also calls herself the Queen of Canada. Did you know that HR, you know, it always says HRH, Romana Didelot, and I believe that means Her Royal Highness. Yes, so that's what that stands for. Because we all know, I mean, maybe we don't all know, but the Queen was not actually a legitimate queen, Queen Elizabeth. Yeah, so that was all just some crazy stuff. They were actually Nazis, and you know that changed their names to Windsors and all just crazy stuff. So anyway, so Canada has this new leader, and she has all of the people, well, not all of the people of Canada, but people, you know, like ourselves who are awake and aware, issuing cease and desist orders to all types of businesses and governmental bodies and things in Canada to basically make them stop, or at least give them, what would you call that? To inform them that if they do continue doing these things that are acts of genocide and acts of crimes against humanity. So we're talking about from the social distancing to the mask wearing to the jabs, that all of these things that are being forced on people and taking their rights away, all of these things are not okay, and that there will be tribunals with possible execution as punishment for these types of crimes. So she's straight out saying this, and she's had Canadians issue cease and desist letters pretty much everywhere. They've covered all the schools, all, I think, the hospital systems and the medical systems across the country. They've even issued them to all of the Fortune 500 companies. They have them doing it here in America and across the whole world right now. And so that really is like an act of we, the people, taking our sovereignty back, and us being serving these legal orders. You know, that has us actually doing the work, which is what it's supposed to be. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. Is
Yeah.
that a weird thing? For me, I'm like, yeah, amazing. But yeah.
Well, I mean, it's if we don't do it, who's going to?
Exactly.
We can't wait for somebody to come in and swoop in and save us.
Exactly.
We have to save ourselves. We have to embody sovereignty.
Exactly.
Boom.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, so Romana has people doing a lot of those wonderful, amazing things, but then she's also been talking about, some really interesting things as well. You know, talking about how in Canada 2.0, Canadians will barely be taxed. You know, we will not have the same horrible taxation, which is in perfect alignment with Gasara and Nasara. You know, she's also talked about how there will be med beds. So if anybody knows about med beds, there's a real patent for it. So these are real things. They're very futuristic, and supposedly this is another device that we should have all had a long time ago. And a med bed, think futuristic stuff, think sci-fi movies where you lay in this little thing and it's just going to heal you, you know? And so she's actually talking about those, but she also calls them intergalactic med beds, you know? So she's like very cosmically minded. And where was I going with that? Oh, and she also said that like all the legislative buildings in Canada, that they're going to clear out those legislative buildings and they're going to make them med bed hubs. And that also med beds would be put into schools and like community centers and stuff. And so she's coming from such a place of like, we're going to heal all the people. You know, we don't need this big government. And I believe that she said that government would be reduced to either like about 10 to 30% of the size that it is right now. You know, but she's coming all at this from like such a place of like love and from like the future, and like it's kind of bizarre, but it all settles really, really well in my heart and soul. But then I'm like, is this true? But then it's like, it might be true. What are your thoughts on all of that?
It's the same thing as the dark side.
Oh, true.
Is how do we know? How do we know? So you have to go with what resonates. And then, I mean, I think I'm in the same boat as you. It's like, is this true? I want it to be true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's just it, right? Because we want it to be true, and that can allow us to be deceived sometimes, right?
Right. But it is very integral, and it is very loving and compassionate, like you said. And so that sort of gives it more validity.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then if we can get just a little bit more woo-woo with the Romana stuff, is like even last week in Canada, there's horrible forest fires ravaging across British Columbia, like really, really bad fires. And they had been in a drought and everything. And it almost seemed like they were using some of the weather modification things, because there were all of these, like the clouds that come off of the burning forests. But then these clouds were full of lightning. And like that's not what happens in nature, you know, so weird things like that. And then Romana made a post asking for everybody to pray for rain. And she was also extended that request up to, I can't remember what she calls them, but like our intergalactic brothers and sisters. So she's talking about, you know, those beings that we really feel have been like helping us out in other realms, or I don't know the right way to say that. You know, there's so many ways to say that, you know, and trying not to be too woo-woo, but we probably need to understand that there's more here than just us. But even that she's asking everybody for prayers for rain, and also getting our star sisters and brothers involved in it, or our cosmic family. And then the next day there's finally rain. You know, like what if we actually have support like that? What if our power of prayer and everything truly can do miraculous, amazing things? You know?
For sure.
Yeah. Oh, and that brings me to that video. We watched an amazing video, both of us today, on a doctor speaking about a lot of these things that's going on, and speaking about the transhumanist agenda and things like that. But where she was going with that, and if you guys haven't checked out Heart Math, the Heart Math Institute, they do incredible work. But basically, like our heart, its electromagnetic field, I believe it's about 5,000 times that of the brain. And that for most of us, like this electromagnetic field can easily extend about like a 6-foot radius around us. But for those of us that are like truly embodied and working out of integrity and like really soul connected, that basically like our heart field, our electromagnetic, what do you call that? The field, it can go out miles. So that when you think that all of us are doing this inner work, the way that we actually energetically impact our surroundings is huge.
Yep.
Huge.
Absolutely. So keep doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, keep doing all of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so I think we packed in a lot of the stuff that is necessary. And as far as like for all of these days, guys, for all of us to be as prepared as possible, if you go back a few episodes, there's an episode on multidimensional preparedness, and that's just going to give you a lot of good ideas on how to just be a bit more prepared during these days. You know, a big thing for me though lately has been really making peace with my body and making peace with the mortality. You know, not to get like that on this podcast, but like really like being good with soul, you know, and being okay, like that whatever happens, to know that we are eternal souls, that this experience is temporary, and that in the biggest picture of soul, everything's okay, even after whatever crazy stuff happens, like everything's still okay, right?
Right.
Yeah. What about for you? Like what's anything? What's keeping you sane or grounded, or what's the inner?
Well, I go up and down and all around, but
which I think is so normal, everybody. So if you're up and down and all around with us, you're perfect still.
But I mean, I say a lot. This is temporary, or this is just in my mind, or So just taking care of myself the best way that I can, my body self and my mind self. So that's pretty much it for me. I mean, there's so much. I can't even, like right now, I can't even come up with anything, but just knowing that everything is truly temporary. And then we did choose to be here at this time. In my mind, we chose to be here at this time to do this mission. And the mission isn't to placate. The mission isn't to, you know, just roll over. I mean, this is like get involved, you know, get involved with yourself, and then get involved with others. And I don't want to say fight, but I do want to say fight.
Yeah. I think it's I think it's okay to fight. And even like when we look at times in history, like if more people just stood up and fought,
Right.
how would history have changed,
Stand
right?
up, stand up.
And I
stand
think
up.
maybe that's part of like how we've been like, oh, don't fight. Like fight is a bad word.
Right.
Or
Right.
is that in the conscious language at all? Like the ideas around fight?
No, but I've heard so many other things about it. Like when you're saying fight, then you're giving, you're making what you're fighting against live. You know, you're validating that as something that has to be fought. So you're giving power to it. So that's where I'm like, okay, is there something else that I can say that's more conscious about it? But haven't figured it out yet. But in a way, it's a fight for our souls. I mean, they're fighting.
Exactly. Right? If the dark side's fighting, yeah, you know, I used to say, well, you can't fight for world peace. You need to peace for world peace.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
But what if that's actually the distorted part, you know, because it's like we are literally at war right now.
Yeah.
You can't piece yourself out of war when the other side is fighting hard and bringing everything that they've got and they're attacking us electromagnetically, physically,
Right.
spiritually,
Right.
nutritionally. You know, it's like we're actually in a state where no, we need to fight. But it's temporary. Once it's won.
And that's probably part of the distortion. It's like, oh, wait, no, peace for peace, so that you don't fight. Just maybe another manipulation put out there. You know, just vibrate higher, you know, love more.
Right.
And yes, all those things are great, but also it's not really going to fix anything except for maybe some of you.
Yeah. And really, like, we will all peace for world peace when this big battle is done, you know? But we've got basically like a murderer at the front door,
Right.
you know?
Right.
Bill Gates and his posse and all of them, right? So while we're in this stage, I think that the stronger that we can all be, and the stronger in our voices, you know? But I'm seeing, at least on social media, I'm seeing a lot more like moms and dads and people just like be like, what? No, no more guys, no more guys. You know, you see the people. Like for people that are still wearing masks, just for them to be asked of like, why? Like, you know, what is the reasoning at this point when we are this far into it, you know? And everybody like do whatever it is that you want, but like we've got to think through what we're doing, and like let's do the things that make sense, right? And let's not do any of the things that are giving our power away. Yeah, and really that's though everybody's own personal decisions and what that looks like, right?
Yeah.
Like I know what is right for me and what my sovereignty is, and I know, you know, if I, you know, do certain things, that's me giving my power away. But what that is for me versus you versus anybody else is all going to be different, right? Yeah. Good. Okay, so we covered quite a bit, guys. Anything else that you feel is important? No? Okay. So we will wrap this one up, and then we'll have another episode coming out this week as we decide what topics feel most important to talk about. Yeah. Okay, well guys, so again, if you are watching us on YouTube, please give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you do want to receive more of this, because it does help us. And once we've got 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, we can start doing lives where we can be like sitting here and have the live chat with you guys, and we can be like really interfacing. We can be talking health, cleansing. We've got like, you know, so many things in our background that we love helping people with and through. And we're gonna keep fighting the good fight and loving the good love. Does that make sense? We'll figure these things out.
Yeah.
Okay, well, until next time, guys, we wish you guys all the best always. Please keep taking care of yourself. Take care of one another. Let's be kind to everyone, because like kindness goes a long way.
A long way.
And, you know, we can all be firm and strong and fierce and soft. Fierce and kind. Yeah. Okay, well, guys, we will see you all in the next episode. We love you very, very, very much.
Yes, very much.